This is Queer from the Other Side.
Your queer approach to everything from the paranormal and supernatural realms.
With no subject left unexplored.
I'm Shana, your resident witch with a talent for hunting ghosts and connecting with Earth's energy.
I'm Alexander, your in-house skeptic, with my own ghost stories and obsession with outer space. But will I ever believe?
And I'm Derek, your on-air spiritualist on a mission to awaken souls to ground their spiritual power into their physical experience, bridging heaven and earth.
Get ready to explore.
Here we go.
The show starts now.
Hello. Why are you guys so quiet? We're all like, spooky, ooky.
I just loved our intro so much. I was feeling that.
It was
Triggered,
intense.
yeah.
I liked it. I was like, all right.
We're just waiting for Netflix to call. Like, where's our show? Like, come on.
We're going to go chase Bigfoot.
Yes, well.
I'm ready for it.
My ex is Bigfoot.
Then you already know where he is. It's great.
And trust me, the size of his foot, no. Anyway. But this is our debut episode of Queer from the Other Side. We're going to talk everything paranormal and supernatural. And every episode, one of us is going to take turns as the driver. So I'm the driver for today. I'm very, very excited. I'm Alexander Rodriguez. I come from the entertainment industry. I have On the Rocks podcast. I interview celebrities. I have no expertise in the paranormal or supernatural realm other than I am obsessed with all things supernatural, afterlife, religion, spirituality, and all that. So that's why I'm here. I'm going to be like the voice of reason, the skeptic, because I want to believe, but I never ever believe.
Well, I think this whole experience is probably maybe going to change that. I think we're going to open up some portals, if you ask me, then you might have some experience.
I'm going to agree with that. I take it as like this personal challenge. You say, I want to believe. I'm like, oh, baby, we'll get you there.
I really do. When I was a little kid, I would stand out outside and just wish that a UFO would come because I grew up on Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. and that was my thing. And even religious, I wanted Mary to come appear to me. Like, she was always appearing in Europe. I'm like, take a trip to L.A. Come on, girl.
Oh, my gosh. Well, maybe they have visited you, but maybe they erased your mind so that you don't know that they came.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how we can be open to experiences and kind of like grow through that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I said who I was. Why don't you guys introduce you?
I'm Shauna Leilani, and I am a witch by personal practice and by trade. So my 9 to 5 is literally tarot cards, ghosts, spellcraft, all of that. It's very integrated into every aspect of my life and my hobbies, so to speak. And my expertise is actually within the realm of the dead. So I am a paranormal investigator. I'm a ghost enthusiast. I love dead stuff. Like, that's what it comes down to. If I can't go talk to a ghost, I'm gonna go home and play with some taxidermy. Like, that's kind of where I roll. And I'm excited to kind of take you guys on this trip of learning how to appreciate history from a different lens, because ghost stories just don't happen from a spooky haunted house. They happen from prolific events, from disasters, from historic aspects of things. And so we can kind of look a little bit deeper and appreciate them, and also understand different types of hauntings, why they're there, and how we as the living need to actually be respectful of that as well. And so how to approach this respectfully, not just because it's a good life choice to make, but also so the ghost doesn't think you're a jerk. It's important. You don't want a ghost
having a ghost think you're a jerk.
Hey, you've had it happen.
Yeah.
I have a haunted doll named Stephanie, and I brought her in to the studio. And like Alexander said, like, he wants to believe, but he's a skeptic, and so he kind of was like, I don't know. And she messed with you.
She messed with like our lighting, like everything. But we took her to a gay bar, and she loved it.
Yeah, we went. And
we literally did.
Yeah, and you know, she's a fan of the Abbey now, and. And I think you guys are on good terms. Pizza parties, you know, that kind of stuff. We keep it good.
I'm all for it. I'm somebody who doesn't eat pizza ever, clearly.
That's not true. When I go to the AMC's, I definitely get a little flat pan.
That's not a pizza. Oh my God, I cannot believe you compared pizza to what's happening at AMC.
Okay, you're right. It is flat. There's barely anything on it. But I'm getting there.
You know what? You connected with the spirit of pizza.
There you go. The afterlife of pizza, like just the whiffs of pizza.
The essence of pizza is what I've connected with. Yes. Well, I'm Derek Jameson, and I focus on QHHT, past life regression work, and I lead people into their past lives so that they can experience it. I can also do Akashic Records work too, where I pick up on past life information for people if it pertains to them, helps them in their life. But what I think is way more fun than that is being able to guide somebody through safety and allowing them to actually see it. Some people don't even realize they can have psychic abilities to see visions or receive energy, receive information like that. And when I take people into, a past life regression or a meditation, they're able to see their past life and look down at their body and actually walk through it and have the feelings and the emotions that they experienced in a past life. Sometimes that bridges also into future lives, parallel lives, and lifetimes that you would blow your mind. So I really love enjoying and enjoy people being able to experience their own other lifetimes rather than just being told them. That said, I go back way far when I was a kid and I had connections to the spiritual world, and they were very challenging. A lot of it was very physical. I couldn't explain what was happening to me, but my energy just attracted a lot of spirits since I was a little boy. And because of the fear around it, I shut it off for many, many years. It started to open up back when I was working at a theme park at Paramount's Great America in Northern California. I was asked to read tarot cards, and I was thinking, oh yeah, this is really easy. I'm just going to read the tarot cards. He was like, just say what's on the card and use your intuition. I did that, but a lot of the information that was coming forward was really negative stuff. So when it was all dark and negative, I was also attracting the spirit energies that were associated with it. So because of the hauntingness of it all afterwards, I shut it off for very many years, focused on music. And then music is actually the thing that opened everything back up to me and allowed me to connect more with the spiritual world from a higher place, not a place of fear. And then that changed the game. I was able to see what I was actually capable of doing. The angels, archangels, extraterrestrials, grandma to the other side that comes and visits, the spirit dogs that have passed on, everything, the elemental energies, the dragons, the fairies, the you name it, would all come through. And I gladly opened myself and accepted all of that information. So now I help people with those connections that they see that are taking place in their lives so that they can be able to trust themselves. Because that's what it really comes down to. I want people to trust themselves so that they can trust the universe and their environment and live powerful lives. Because there's a reason why we're all here. But if you don't trust yourself, how can you actually embody that and sit in that power? So I'm so excited to see where all of this goes. And
is that all? I'm just like, that's like our season in a nutshell. You brought up so many terms. I'm like, what? But I do want to do an episode just about pets in the afterlife because we lost our family pet, and it was like the first pet that I had ever. I mean, he was around for 17 years. And the research that you do, and I was raised Catholic, and the Pope, 2 popes have gone on record saying, sorry, no animals in the afterlife. But it's like, but you're saying that there's like certain energies. So we're gonna have to do a whole episode,
absolutely,
about that.
I gotta just say that I as many pagans, we all most of us come from other religions, and I have to say that was kind of like where my deal breaker was with Catholicism when they said that pets don't have souls. I was like, done. I'm gonna go over here. Hail Satan. He likes dogs.
He likes dogs.
I mean, that did it for me, and then them saying that gays were going to hell. I mean, that was
I was a little kid, so I wasn't there yet. But I was I think 8, and someone's like, "But your dog doesn't have a soul," and I was like, what? Like, Jesus says that animals don't have souls, and I was like, Jesus is kind of a jerk. That's like in my 8-year-old brain. I was like, oh, yeah. And then I just kind of kept that thought process.
And animals were here longer than any of us.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I mean, come on. But we do come from a queer perspective, and that's one thing that we're going to focus on. The people we interview are not necessarily going to be queer, but we're going to relate how the paranormal and supernatural and how our own spirituality and our own inner power. We're going to look at it from a queer perspective and how we can help it use these elements in our daily life and our queer life. Like I said, you brought up a whole bunch of different things. And on this episode, we're really going to kind of you're going to get to know us. We have some listener questions. We're also going to do a fun segment called Pop Culture and the Paranormal. What's streaming on TV? What's popular? And how real does it connect with the reality of things from our experts.
Of spooky life.
It's funny that you mentioned tarot, because I know that's a big part of what you do.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that I got was, can anybody read tarot? Because the assumption is tarot cards are there, they have their own power, and that as long as you learn what each card could mean, then anybody can read tarot. Is that necessarily true?
I agree with that. There's two elements, at least from where I'm coming from, when it comes to giving a good tarot reading. And one is you have to understand the cards. You have to know the definitions and also understand the imagery of them. So I think it's very important to get a deck that you like, you relate to the art, it calls to you, because each artist is also conveying their own spin on that message. And so it is important that you understand the language of the tarot, because it very much so is a language. When you understand it and you're fluent in it, it's a second language. The other element to giving a good tarot reading is being able to take all of that and weave it together with your intuition to tell a story, to answer someone's questions by weaving together a story that basically is composed of all of the consequences, so to speak, of the choices they have made thus far. So to answer your question, yes, anyone can read the tarot. Can everyone read it well? No.
Well, I'm going to say,
Very true.
Yeah.
you know, we have our problematic friends in the gay community. It's like, girl, I know what you did last weekend, right? And then all of a sudden, like during COVID, people didn't know how to earn money or whatever. So they're like, oh, I'm a tarot card reader. And I'm just like, you're full of bullshit, because like I know you so personally, and I know you can't possibly be channeling these things. But you're saying that the tarots can speak for themselves if you do the work behind it.
Yes, but again, like anyone can read, right? We can all learn how to read. That doesn't mean you're going to be like this prolific author. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, anyone can read tarot cards. I think also anyone can be psychic. I think we're all born psychic. That's why you hear about little kids saying like the weirdest stuff, and you know they see spirits, all that. It's because they just came from the other side, you know. So it's like they're close to it. So we all have that there. But I think that our intuition is very much so like a muscle. We all have it. Some of us have better ones. Some of us exercise them more. Things like
Why
that.
are you looking at us too? It's like before and after. Like, why you look at us, AMC Pizza?
So, but to answer your question, anyone can do it. I have my own opinions, because I did see that too, where I was seeing like just like all of a sudden everyone was a spiritual influencer and everyone's a witch and all this stuff. And it's like, at the end of the day, who am I to judge? I don't know your journey. I know what you did last weekend, but I don't know your journey.
But it does dilute the voices. You know, even podcasting. Now everybody has a podcast. It's like, okay, well then, you know, a good podcast, how does that voice, you know, keep being heard? And I know there's different types of tarot. Like the tarot cards that you read are probably different than the tarot that you're involved with, right? Because I heard that they're from like different realms.
Are you talking like tarot versus oracle, maybe?
Yeah.
Well,
because tarot cards have to have certain aspects that are the same. That's what makes them the tarot.
Got it.
Now, the oracle cards have different interpretations, artwork, messages, you know, different channeled things, different ideas. But like, you know, with the tarot, you're having certain archetypal energies, and that's why she's explaining to understand those symbols that are in there, to understand the archetypal, to understand the numbers and how they associate. There's so many levels in one card that you could do a whole reading on somebody in one card, let alone a whole spread, because there's so much energy and so many dimensions in one card. So a person that's reading should understand those levels, but they're really also, it's how well do they understand themselves? Because you're going to understand the level of a tarot card or an archetype to the level that you can understand yourself. It's all mirror reflection. So when you're talking about how during COVID, a lot of people started coming out, what you found, there was also a lot of trans people that came out of COVID as well, right?
Yep.
It gave people what I found is that it gave people the opportunity to start listening to themselves, doing the shadow work. And when people do shadow work, they start awakening their own intuitive powers and abilities.
what's shadow work?
Where you see the parts of yourself that maybe you don't acknowledge, you shut away. It could be from traumas, from pain. It could be scared of how people are going to judge you. During the period, everybody was able to go through a transformation and integrate the shadow aspects of themselves. That's the opportunity that COVID gave us. Some people didn't take that and they resisted that change. And so a lot of, it didn't work out in their favor. But many people, because of what you're saying, I'm just giving that deeper perspective of what actually took place during that time. It awakened people's intuitive gifts. That said, when people awaken to their intuitive gifts, people can think that they're so supreme and have power. This spiritual ego takes place. And then people think, oh, well, because I have this connection or I saw an entity or being, they go off the deep end and go, oh, I'm so enlightened, or I'm so exalted. And that's not necessarily the case. Just because beings come or just because you start having these experiences doesn't mean you've gone through the evolutionary process that grounds that power. So it's also part of spiritual awakening. And that's what a lot of people went through for 2020, and it's starting to calibrate. And those people that have the real power are going to step forward and have the longevity with it.
I think that's a really beautiful way to look at 2020. I just have to say, because it's really true. Like, there was so much shadow work going on because so many people were just stuck at home having to face their own demons.
Bubble,
yeah,
self-discovery. All
so
of this.
that's honestly, like, I never thought about it that way. So thank you for that, because that's actually beautiful. The thing I want to add to that too, just like when you're talking about kind of just like them coming out and they're like the baby witch supremes, you know. Hey man, we've all been there.
I love that baby witch supremes. We better copyright that. Write it down real fast. Write it down. Copyright that.
The great thing that we get to kind of watch with that is like the real ones that are going to kind of stick with the path that they have discovered. With that, there is a certain element that becomes the death of the ego, right? Because that's part of the spiritual awakening. And there's all sorts of jokes in the spiritual community of, oh, like, I think it's going to be so great. And it's really like, oh, you know, my world just ended. And not necessarily that all the baby witch supremes need to do that, but there's going to be a part where they will have to face challenges that can ultimately make them disenchanted with this spiritual world that they're in. And it doesn't mean that they're going to step away from it. It's at that point that it becomes integrated into their regular life and they learn how to balance it and ride that hedge. And that's when we're going to see them really blossom, and that's when it's going to be great. And the other ones that can't, that's fine, because let's face it, there is a certain amount of this that is kind of brought to us by pop culture and all of these different things that makes it interesting and sexy and just like we want to know more. So it almost becomes like a fad. And it's not that it's ever going to go anywhere, because being the village witch has always been one of the oldest professions. All right, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
village witch and prostitution. There you go.
And bartending. Let's not forget about bartending.
And bartending. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a city I want to live in, full of witches, prostitutes, and bartenders. Like, that's my city.
You're in LA. That's basically what it is. Come
Pretty
on.
much an OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Well, it's not everyone's role either to awaken to the levels that the teachers are supposed to be. So the village witch is the spiritual teacher, is the mystic. It's not, think about if a whole village was that,
Yeah.
where's your role? Where's your piece of the puzzle? You know, and we're here evolving. So I really believe that everyone has these roles, and our awarenesses of those other dimensions are how we enliven our roles and work as a community and realize that we're all one big machine working together rather than something that's so separate. So I think that everybody, as long as you honor your role and honor your calling, your puzzle piece is fitting into the puzzle so beautifully. And some of those puzzle pieces are much more intricate, where all the designs come together. And then you go out to the outskirts, like our picture. You might get into the black space, and maybe that's your piece, where you're just supposed to be where you are without doing something special.
At least in this lifetime,
In
you
this
know, no
lifetime.
pressure, because you can do something different next time, or maybe you did before.
I don't want to come back next time. Like, I've had a journey of it. Like, I'm done. Like, no, it's like,
God.
no, I'm going to eat my real pizza. I'm going to live my one life. Like, that's what I'm doing. But tarot, so the assumption, like, where does tarot even come from? Because the assumption is tarot comes from gypsies. It comes from from the devil. Like, all of these assumptions.
It was a card game. It was actually a card game. I want to say in the 14th century-ish, somewhere around there. And it's called Tarochi. I don't know if I'm butchering that. I can barely speak English. Tarochi. But it's actually a really fun card game. It's a little complicated to kind of get the hang of it, but if you can figure out Uno, you can figure this out.
We should play like the original card game.
Yeah, you can actually play it with a tarot deck. And that's where it first came from. So it was actually a card game. So when people are like, oh, this is just playing cards. But even then, when you look at one aspect of tarot, which is the minor arcana, it is tarot. It is playing cards, which is where we get playing card readers and things like that. So it does kind of all go that way. But when we get right down to it, tarot is a form of divination. It is called cartomancy. And when you get right into that, divination is being able to use different tools to predict the future, to kind of pierce the other side and kind of get some information. You can do that with literally anything. There's coffee ground readers, tea leaf readers,
lipstick readers.
I started studying that. It is so much fun.
Come on, though.
Yeah.
There's even like anus readers. I'm not even kidding you.
Pucker up.
You put your anus in. I didn't do this, but you put it in ink and you put it on a paper.
Are you sure you
I have
didn't
a
do this?
coworker that was an
Power top.
assistant for someone that read the other lips.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
So, and she said
That's
it
an
was-
episode.
Yeah. But I was like, what? I was so intrigued. So I don't even know who the person was that she worked for, but she was like, oh yeah. And it would be like bachelorette party and chicks would just kind of come in like they're going to the gyno office and they would just get their life told to them.
Okay, there has to be like a line drawn. It's like, okay, unless you believe our whole body is a source of.
I mean, I guess you could
divination.
stretch marks. Like, why not? Let's just throw that out there.
I mean, our bodies do tell us specific things and information that's going on. So if something changes within our physiology, it is conveying some kind of information. So I guess we could look at it the same way. And also, it's like the area that those things take place in are the areas that tell us what's going on within our lives. So a lot of times, if people have like a knee problem or an ankle problem, it's always about forward movement, things like that. As long as it's not, I just hurt myself in the gym, well, things like that. If it's a chronic thing that keeps coming up, those things that are taking place within our bodies are giving us symbols. It's about whether or not we're going to dive into that level of information.
Girl, after 40, the whole body's like creak, groan, like it's a whole story.
It's like, I need a cleansing.
Now, I want to know how you got into the whole like witchdom, because I remember growing up, like The Craft was a popular movie and we all thought they were little emo kids and that we were going to conjure spirits.
Yeah.
But what is the reality of how you got into it?
Honestly, I was just always that weird kid. Like, that really is part of it. As with most people that get involved in the paranormal, I grew up in a haunted house. So I already kind of had this relationship with understanding that there was something after you die and understand that we have to treat spirits with respect and all of this. So I already knew that was there. And then when I was about 8 years old, my uncle, like how your parents have like that best friend, that's your uncle, that was,
100%.
Yeah, that was my uncle. And he came to hang out with my mom. And he would always do stuff to keep me like basically occupied so I would leave them alone. So he taught me like fire meditation. So he would like sit me down and he would light a candle and he would make me concentrate on the flame and he would say, okay, you have to tell it to get taller, you have to tell it to get shorter, flicker, and I'll do all these things. And that would buy him at least 20-30 minutes of me not bothering them.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Get out.
We can totally do it. It is so easy. It's going to blow your mind. It's so easy. So yeah, so you can definitely do that. And then he gave me a tarot
Candle
reading.
shopping.
So then he taught me tarot. He didn't. He gave me a tarot reading and it blew my mind. I thought it was the coolest thing. I saved my allowance for what felt like a million years to have enough money to buy a tarot deck, and I went to the local witchy store and I bought it. And so I brought it to him and I'm like, okay, teach me how to do this. And he said, no, teach yourself. And I was so kind of deflated in that moment, but he's like, no, look at the cards. How do they make you feel? How do these colors make you feel? So what he really did was he activated my intuition and he taught me how to listen to my spirit guides through that moment. And then I learned how to read them traditionally. And literally I have friends even today that will say, oh, I met her because she read my tarot cards at recess. Because I was that weird kid. Like,
What did your
I just
parents
did that.
say?
Well, so like my dad always thought it was a little like weird, like, oh, there's my weird kid, My mom kind of just fed it. So like she would take me to the bookstore and buy me all of like the witchy books and stuff and all the spell books. So like it was really weird because she would buy them for me. And then her and my grandmother would yell at me and tell me not to worship Satan and demons, which like, but that to me, that was never part of it. I was still very much so like going to church. So like, I was like, wait, what? So that was like its own thing at the time. But I mean, even then it was never about questioning like that I was doing something wrong. I mean, I actually came across my first spell like not too long ago. I was actually really proud of myself because I tell my students all the time, like, write down the date, the moon phase, blah, blah, blah. And usually I feel like a hypocrite because don't ask me what, I don't know. But I did. And so I found it and it was actually a spell to be psychic. So
Bring that spell with you next time.
I want to say, like, I'm a great and powerful witch because it fucking worked.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but so it was just something I was always called to it, and I was really lucky that I was in a position that I wasn't shot down for it. Like, it was encouraged. I was nurtured, I was allowed to do these things and ultimately be myself. Like, obviously there was parameters that were put there that I had to explore as an adult. But even then, once I became an adult, I started formally training as a witch. So I joined a coven, I studied under a mentor, I did my initiation, blah, 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 like all the steps that you have to take. So I've done it. So it's just always very much so been there for me. But on that, I have to ask you, because you have always been so fascinated by witchcraft and the paranormal, but you're still so far removed, but you're always tiptoeing around it. Like, I see eyeballing it.
I'm fascinated. Like, I'm so fascinated. And I was raised Catholic, and we come from a Latin culture. And the Latin culture, it's kind of hypocritical because, to your point, they're like, oh no, any of that is, that's like Satan related, or you're not supposed to get your fortune told or whatever. But then there's this whole culture where everybody's kind of doing it on the side. Like,
I have to ask, when you were a kid, when you were sick, how many times did they rub eggs on you? Did that ever happen?
No. We weren't quite there, but I know many people from the culture do that. And when you look at the Catholic Church, especially Latin Catholics, they are so aggressive I remember my aunt would constantly be doing holy water and with the rosary constantly in such like a weird fashion where it became, that's her spells, as far as I'm concerned, and the holy water and the beliefs about some of the sacraments are so spell related that it really have nothing to do with the actual like Bible or the teachings. It's like these ceremonies that the Catholics do and where they came from is so disconnected with the actual message of Jesus or whoever you believe in.
When you really look at a lot of things that are done in a Catholic church, it's all ceremonial magic. It is very magical. It's ceremonial magic. And you can actually see it in a lot of magical traditions, such as Santeria, in Voodoo, in Strega. They use the saints a lot. So you'll see like this crossover of the Catholic saints. But again, that comes back to understanding that history is such an important part of the paranormal and things like that, because what happened was we would have a culture that had their pagan or whatever their cultural belief system was and their deities, and then came in the church and kind of tried to squash all of that. And when that happened, they didn't actually like turn their back on their religion for the church. What they did was they integrated it. So the saints actually have a lot of magical power and correlations with different deities and different spirits. So it's just like, you'll never really see me go into a Catholic church these days unless I'm going to start smoking and sizzling. However, Saint Anthony, he's my homeboy.
You lose your keys, you pray to Saint Anthony. But we're taught this as kids. And you're right, because the saints would piggyback. And now to become a saint, always become a saint, the saint has to have two miraculous events that happen in there. It used to be 3, now it's only 2.
We're just really lowering our standards.
But they just ordained a new saint. He was actually a teenager, and he's like from recent times. I forget what his little story is. Maybe I'll do research and I'll bring it back next time. But he has 2 miraculous events in his name.
Fascinating.
And that used to be like the checklist. So don't tell me like the saints are not magical when literally to become a saint you have to be magical. Yeah. I mean, it's so like insane with that.
Yeah.
Even in terms of how we celebrate Christmas and Easter, like, everybody knows that's not, Jesus didn't really like, he wasn't really born in December in the cool winter's night, based on a pagan holiday, and Easter as well.
Well, so when you look at the pagan wheel of the year and the main holidays, and you kind of layer that on top of just like a typical Catholic or Christian calendar, it's very familiar. And one of the reasons why they kind of integrated so many of those was because it made converting the pagans easier. So we kept Yule and we called it Christmas, and we kept the Yule tree and all of these different traditions. We just kind of put different labels on top of them. And what that did was they kind of got on board, because at least the activities and the symbolism and stuff, it's all things that were familiar to them. So it was really interesting. As I started learning about this, I was like, this isn't as foreign as I thought it would be. Even Valentine's Day kind of comes in there, because we have the Roman holiday Lupercalia, which wasn't necessarily based on love. That's not what the Romans like to focus on. But we took that and we put a saint on top of it, and we're like, here you go. So yeah, we do see a lot of that, and it kept things familiar.
And so I think that's what kind of got me interested in it. And I've always been, even when I was a little kid, like they thought they're going to have to take me to like a psychiatrist or something, because I was so obsessed with life after death. in terms of the fear of losing my mom and my grandma, which was my biggest fear, even when I was 7 years old, to the point that I couldn't sleep because I would have such it would just fill every single thought. And so I've always been fascinated in finding proof of life after death. And this last year I lost my mom, and 2 years before that I lost my grandma. So my biggest fears came true. And I still don't have those answers. Nothing happened after they died that I'm just like, oh, okay, there they are, And so it's been this quest. But even Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot, I just love the unknown. Because what we live in an everyday life, we know so much. And look how much hate is in the world right now. Look how much, we're all suffering from either money problems or our own relationship issues. So it's almost comforting to believe that there's so much better or bigger out there that we're just not thinking of in our daily lives.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna be really fucking mad if when I die there's ghost politics and ghost jobs. I'm gonna be so mad.
I mean,
in Beetlejuice?
Yes. And even Dead Boy Detectives, which I know we're going to talk about, but it's a 9-to-5 job? No.
But you know what? That would be hell. Bureaucracy, and having all the papers you would have to file. I'm yeah, that sounds like some kind of spiritual punishment.
Oh my Lord.
Think about that. Next time you have to go to the DMV, be this is my karma because I did this bad thing. Yeah. There you go.
What are some of the realities of being a witch? Or some of the assumptions that you want to be no.
I think the first one is I don't curse people. Don't get it twisted. I know how. Don't make me go there.
Does it really, so if I were to go buy a spell book, I could do a spell and it would manifest itself?
Potentially, if you had the right intent, because when you get right down to it with magic, it's intention, and that's really the thing. And then we put in the herbs and the oils and all of the different elements that you can kind of get in to build a spell. And quite frankly, none of those are required or necessary to work magic. Magic is up here and it's in here, and that's where it really comes from. So as long as you have your intention and it is in alignment with your virtue and you believe it, you're good. So if going and picking up a spell book and you're I need this red candle to manifest this thing and bring this to me, good for you if that's what's going to do it. Yeah, because it helps focus that, and those things do bring those powers. So I'm all for the herbs. I mean, I'm an herb hoarder. It's ridiculous. I have more than I will ever need, but just in case, but the second that you start questioning your magic, the worst thing that you can do is light your candle or do release your circle and be oh gosh, I hope that works, that you're already doubting your magic. You can't do that, so if you're gonna go buy a spell book and you try a spell and it's within you're realistic about it, right? You're not gonna go try and conjure the winning lottery numbers. You're gonna do something that's realistic and you believe that you are capable and you are worthy of that, and you think I think this candle just helped me, I'm feeling pretty good about this. You just set that magic into motion beautifully.
Now, where's this magic coming from? Is it coming from a god figure? Is it coming from the powers of Earth, like the natural energy of Earth? Where's this magic coming from?
Well, I think that would all depend on who you ask. There's many different types of witches, and there's some that follow very strict traditions. There's some that are eclectic, so it just depends. And there's many deities out there, and I'm all for working with deities and working with spirits. I have my own relationships with certain ones very closely, and what you'll see is a lot of pagans. They'll say that they have their patron and their patroness, or their mother and father, and those are the two main deities that they work with. And then they'll have others that they work with from time to time. Sometimes spirit might just come into your life for a moment, you're struggling with something, or there's a lesson here. Maybe you have a lesson in love and beauty and accepting yourself. So maybe Aphrodite comes in to work with you, and then you learn that, and that's kind of part of your shadow work, and you get past that. Maybe she doesn't have to be such a big presence for you now, and she can step back, things like that. So to get right down to where does the power come from? Well, first of all, yes, the power can come from, a god, a goddess, whatever you want to call, the higher things that are out there. It can come from working with some lower spirits, if that's how you roll. It can definitely come from the earth energy, because that's where we see, come on, everyone loves crystals, right? Where everyone's all about crystals now. It's that is working with earth spirits. But also the magic comes from in here, because we are all connected to something higher. At the end of the day, we are all connected to something bigger. And so when you understand that source and energy like that is infinite, you know that you can tap into that.
Yeah, you're one of your strongest attractors within that. So the word believe came up, right? Because it is what you believe. And if you have doubts in there when you're trying to manifest or create something, it can muddy that stream of consciousness that allows you to attract it. So you have to be in the place of knowing that you have that already. It's almost like speaking it into the past. So anytime I try to manifest anything, I never say I want this, or I say I love how. I love how I have this beautiful thing taking place right now, and I love how I get to share that with all my friends. I affirm that it's already happening in the past. What it does is you're telling the universe already, because the universe is you. It's reflecting everything back to you. So if you realize that you're not separate from the greater totality of it all, when you tell the universe, it goes, oh, you believe that. Okay, I'm going to support that because I am you. Everything begins to support that, and the universe works itself around to bring those things to you. But you can't be in a place of doubt. You also can't be in a place of attachment to the outcome. So when you have an attachment to something and you're like, oh, I'm going to keep asking for this one thing. It's not coming yet, so I'm going to keep asking for it. Well, then what the vibration you're saying is that you don't have that thing, and you're never going to have that thing. It's over there. It's over there. It's over there. You have this lack mentality with it. And so we have to be in the place of, I love how, for example, right now I'm writing songs for a big artist. I love how I'm writing songs for a big artist. I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't know how, who, what. But I said, I love how that's happening. And it's happening now. I said, I love how I have a show where I get to talk about this. And look, we're literally talking about this right now. So this is how I manifest with releasing that attachment to the outcome, that it's going to look a certain way or come a certain way. Because if I would have done that long ago, I would have kept going, oh, well, I'm never seeing this. This is never coming into my life. And then I'm going to stay in that. That's all I'm going to attract to me. But all my life has shown me is that everything I've ever said or manifested or wanted in the past has all come true.
What, to borrow from Charmed, one of my favorite shows out there, right? It's like you can't do anything for personal gain, right? Because that kind of ruins the point of using magic or putting stuff out there.
Yes and no. And I'm going to say yes and no because if I need money to pay my rent, I'm going to do a money candle. That might be personal gain.
Does it work?
Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
Where's the money candle, girl? I need to go get one.
So, yeah, absolutely. When we look at it, some of it is personal gain, 100%. So the way that I look at it is that there's a difference between want and need. You know, your needs will be fulfilled a lot faster than your wants. That doesn't mean you can't go and try and do a travel spell because you really, really want to try and go to Japan. Go ahead and try it. If it works and that happens for you, amazing. Fantastic. If it doesn't, it's because you don't need to go. You need to pay your rent. You need to do all of these other things. So I do think it's hard to really take personal gain out of it. But I think, again, you have to be realistic. You're not going to be able to do a spell to divine the winning lottery numbers. You're not going to be able to do a spell to make this celebrity fall in love with you. If that was already not in the realm of possibility, you don't know them, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to happen.
And what do you think about, saying having a power over somebody or doing a spell or some kind of manifestation where you're manipulating someone else's life, that can have repercussions to it because that's trying to take away the free will of another person. So you can attract the repercussion. Remember, and so speaking of the craft, remember whatever you send out comes back?
Yep.
That's all cause and effect. As above, so below. So we have to make sure that what we're doing is in the best intention for us and in the best intention for all, because that's the only way we'll have this beautiful experience, or else we can have repercussions to things. In this lifetime, I always go, I have instant karma. So if I did something in a relationship, in the very next relationship, I experienced the thing I did.
Give us an example. I want to know. Spill the tea, girl.
No. So, but yeah, that's true. From my community, we call it paying the coin. There's always a coin, so you just have to be willing to pay it. So kind of going back to the misconceptions of being a witch, everyone thinks I curse people all the time. And if you do,
does
that's
that work?
Your thing. Yeah.
But it'll come back to you.
So there's so many different schools of thought on that. A big Wiccan thought process is the rule of 3. Whatever you do comes back to you times 3. Don't come at me. I know a lot of people are like, that's not real. It's made up. Listen, what I'm going to say is I can't say that it comes back to you times 3, but I can say that I've seen a lot of people that like to throw a lot of dark stuff out there. You got me mad, so F you, and here we go. And I've seen it. And what I've seen happen is they live really tragic lives. I've seen... I had a former coven sister that was just very curse happy. I saw her she lived in a locked apartment building in a good area, and a homeless person got in there and attacked her in her laundry room. I saw her almost cut her thumb off at work after she had just cursed her boss. I saw her.
This is freaking me out, y'all.
Yeah, so I saw
be kind.
so be kind, and that's the thing. So what I tell people is, quite frankly, it's not that I don't curse people because I'm a good person. I'm doing it for selfish intentions. I love me and I love my life, and I'm not going to let whatever you did get me mad come and upend my stuff. Like, you go handle what you got to. I'm going to stay over here.
Yeah.
So I do believe there's always a coin to pay. Yeah, as above, so below. There is a cause and effect to everything from the physical and beyond. So we have to keep that in mind.
When you wish ill towards anybody, this isn't every religious, fundamental. It just puts you in a really bad place.
Well, because you create that reality. So remember, it's not just spiritual too. Everything spiritual is physical. When you do an action, you are wiring the neurology in your brain, and it communicates with the rest of your body. So anything that you choose now becomes your tomorrow. And it becomes a physical wiring in your brain. And the more you fixate on that thought or that thing, the more those wires connect, and that becomes your reality. You literally create your reality in every choice you're making. So that said, let's say you did something that's not of your highest and best. You have the opportunity to neutralize that charge. You can balance it out. It's the karmic. It's the coin, flipping the coin, You can be able to make a choice. So if I said something that's not in my highest and best about somebody, and I was like, bah, and then I was like, that was not nice.
I've never heard you say anything mean about anybody.
That's because you just haven't heard me say that.
Okay.
I will take responsibility. And that's the point. Being self-aware. It's not that you do a thing. It's that you're aware that you're doing the thing and that you make a choice, because we are human beings. We have the capability of doing everything under the sun. We do it. We've done really horrible things in other lifetimes, but in this lifetime, we're doing really good things with that, and we're balancing out those actions from another lifetime in this one by doing good things. So it's always about choice, and it's always about self-awareness, and that's what we're here for.
No, I know you connect with deities. You connect with...
I connect with that too.
But when you say angels and archangels, you're not necessarily talking about the winged creatures in the Bible.
Well, that's how they are perceived, and I will.
Do you see their feathers?
Speaking of that, so sometimes
get out.
Sometimes an angel has presented themselves where it was fully like, here's feather, like here's wings with feathers,
and you see it.
Yes, and they will. But see, I perceive angels in different ways. So one time it was with feathers. Those feathers were made of light, but they still look like feathers. Then there was one time where it was like a being of light, and they had swooping, like just iridescent energy that went like this. And so they didn't look like wings, but I was like, oh, this is why people think they have wings, because they had these like this, like swooping into the matrix of all that is in the light, and they could move around like that. Sometimes angels fly during meditation. I'll see them flying in fractals of light like this. Just like these fractals, balls of movement of light. So it really depends. Sometimes it's in the room and I can see where a consciousness is situated. It's all different. That's why you can't put one idea on spirit, because then you're constricting the actual vastness and infinite possibilities that spirit actually has for us.
Now, if you're seeing these angels or these presence, why don't you just ask them, like, hey, is Jesus there? Like,
Jesus is there.
Have you seen him?
Yeah. And I'm not religious.
Is he handsome?
Yeah.
Is he single?
Well, he's kind of a consciousness, so I guess he's like a conglomeration of a lot of different energies. He's the Christ consciousness, so it's like a consciousness frequency that can appear as Jesus. His energy is too big. It's like,
what's a first date like with you? Like, I mean, like, when do you bring this up in a relationship? Like, oh, hey, Jesus just walked by.
I think you kind of got to bring it right away. They got to know what they're setting up for,
Because this freaks me out. I don't know.
Well,
like,
think about it this way too. So, like, I know I was just clowning on Jesus a minute ago. I think Jesus is a cool guy. I think the people that tell his stories sometimes may not be. With that said, sometimes spirits also have to present themselves to you in a way that is relatable to you. Yeah. So when you're talking about Christ consciousness, I get what you're saying, but maybe if that needed to come and present itself to you, Alexander, it would have to come as Jesus, because you will be able to relate to that.
That's how I was raised. I can connect with that.
Yeah,
that's why
I understand that.
I'll even communicate with people differently based off of where they're. So when I have a lot of, for some reason, I do have a lot of Catholic background women that have sessions with me, and they're always going through a transition of marriage for some reason, like leaving a marriage. But I approach that in the terminology and the way that they can receive it. I kind of open it up to other things, but I always meet someone where they're at and use the terminology or their awarenesses that will help them understand it. And that's why I also said I see the angels differently. So you don't want to put a stamp on it's just a winged being, because they're not. It can be a frequency of light. It can be a fractal of light. It can be swooping energy. It could be a cloud in the room of gold energy.
Now, are they coming from heaven? Are they coming from a different universe? Are they coming from a UFO? Like, where are they coming from?
Okay, so...
I mean, I know that's a whole episode.
That is a whole episode. The UFO situation, some people perceive higher extraterrestrial entities as angels, and they will get it mixed up because they're so high vibrational frequency of light, because that's where everything that's where everything goes. So people will mistake that and think that they're seeing an angel. It happens, but that's a different realm. The angelic realm is an angelic frequency realm. It's a different container than it is a being who is evolving through bodies and human physicality into light, because that's what we're doing. We're gaining more light. And so as you do that, different levels of consciousness exist within extraterrestrial or let's say interdimensionals. I'll say that a lot. Interdimensional life. They've just different bands, different ways of consciousness, just like we are as human beings. We're talking about this, but how many people are talking about this? It's because we're in a different evolutionary band of consciousness than other people might be at this point in their time. That's all. So it's all different.
Well, we still have a lot to talk about on this show. I mean...
I do have a question for you, Derek. So you perceive spirits in a very, I'll say, higher vibrational way is how you do it. So what's your view on like haunted places and ghosts, and like, do you have haunted experiences? And like, I'm curious to see how your experience would differ from mine.
I've had haunted experiences since I was really young. Like, I don't know why this one's coming to my mind right now, but there's so many, so I'm going to pick the one that stuck out to me. When I was younger, I went to a co-op house in Berkeley, and I was trying to date this guy that was there, and like he had his girlfriend there and whatever. But
how did that manifest itself in the next relationship?
So then we found a Ouija board and we pulled it into the room, and I was like, let's use the Ouija board because I've done it before. It always works. It moves. If you have powerful channels there, especially, it moves really fast, really easy.
You're like, are you gay? Yes.
Alexander, are you going to play with us?
No, absolutely not. No, that freaks me out.
So I was doing it, and I was talking to a spirit there, and I was like, oh, I was just talking to her. She exists in that space. She was very trickstery, kind of joking with me, answering me things, but it seemed like a girl that was attracted to boys because she would say certain things to me on the board. The two other people freaked out, and they would not. And I was like, okay, well, it's just me. She was still speaking with me in the room. And she said, and I said, well, so did you live in this house? And she said, yes. And it was a co-op house, so it had tons. Mm-hmm. She gave me a floor and a number. And I was like, you guys, is there a number like that's a half and a B? And they were like, maybe under the house. So we go down the stairs under the house. Sure enough, the room was there. And I was like, this was the girl's room. So so it's in a co-op house, and I just happened to be visiting, trying to get in the pants of the guy. Jason was his name.
Then you got his spirit's pants or dress.
And then I got up that girl's dress.
Yeah.
So I've had many experiences like that. And so I let it be whatever it is. And then I released her. I just released her until I said, go back into the realm in which you came, because I'm kind of bridging that space right there with me physically. So I separated our energy just so that she does what she needs to do. Because sometimes spirits, when they come to me now, like the other day, actually a bunch have been coming. It's probably because we're doing this. But these spirits came and they'll show me, one showed me this heart, and it wasn't even it started screaming. I was sitting in meditation at home, started screaming this shrill scream, and then took the heart and exploded the heart.
No, ma'am.
But see, I don't have fear around it. And I was like, okay. I said, you don't have to hold on to that anymore. I said, you want to go into the light? Go into the light. I'm going to move you into light. Let's go into the light. Because spirits now come to me because are in a vibrational space that's with pain or trauma, because they want to be sent. But that's not the case for everything. So these spirits who come to me in a meditation or right before I go to sleep or whenever, they are coming to me because they're showing me what their pain point is. They're showing me their pain. And so when that happens, I help to move them into the light. They usually always go, but that's the ones that come to me for that reason. I move people into the light. I move souls.
It just makes me sad. Like, there's all these spirits that are just stuck, and it's like the spirit at the co-op. What, they're just gonna be there forever, just hanging out?
Maybe not. I don't think so. Not in the long run, but who knows how long that is.
I mean, when we're talking about forever, like, 50 years is a blip in time.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's also assuming that we're talking about spirits that are stuck, though, because they don't have to. They can come visit. And then we get into spirits that don't want to cross over. And we also get into people that have attachments or haunted houses and things like that also don't want to get rid of their ghost. Like, there's all sorts of things that play into that. You'd be surprised how many people genuinely don't want to get rid of their ghost, whether they're going to admit it to you or not. And it's because being haunted is a very unique and special thing. And some people have, I guess, very boring lives. So you get a ghost and it makes you special. It makes you unique. And so they cling to that, even sometimes unconsciously.
And then the spirit will, because that's the energy, they get to still live through that experience, and they still feel that love attachment. And so that does become the attachment. It's all choice. It's all how you're directing your reality.
So, for instance, like Stephanie, my haunted doll, she's been crossed over. She just chooses to hang out.
Well, I mean, I would want to hang out with you too all the time. I have to say, like, in my youth, how I wanted the UFO to come, I wanted Mary to come make an appearance. Part of it was like wanted to see a ghost so badly. My first house I moved into right after college in LA, it was such a bad haunting experience, and it was weeks on end, and it became more and more aggressive till it became violent. I left that place at 4:30 in the morning without shoes on. I called my mom. She drove all the way from Orange County. I never set foot back in that place. It was that terrifying.
Wow.
So it's like I got what I wanted, and I was like, no.
So you believe in ghosts then?
I don't know. I just know that this was too many weird things that happened, and I physically got pushed, and my hair was pulled, and that was the thing that did it. That I was like, "You're gonna start touching me, I'm out of here," because it wasn't friendly. It wasn't just like
no, it was a negative experience.
It was so bad, and it was week after week. First, it started as like a doorbell ringing, and then the cabinets would be or the drawers would be pulled out when I would leave and come back, and then I would hear footsteps on the floor above, and there was nobody there, and then it became more and more aggressive, and then that was it.
Do you think fear about like those experiences are some of the factors into maybe not fully believing yet?
100%.
Yeah.
And and then once you calm down, you always look back, you're like, oh, I probably just, but I just had a haunting experience in Palm Springs at a hotel, and it manifested itself physically to me. And I even told them when I checked out, I'm like, have you had any other, I mean, it was intense. We'll go into that because we have to actually wrap up. You can't believe it. So
us wanted more.
we have your questions. Please go to our website, queerfromtheotherside.com. Follow us on all the social media. We're going to be doing fun little videos. We're going to be answering your questions there. We will get to your questions. We also have to talk about Dead Boy Detectives and Dark Matter. So watch those shows, and on the next episode, we'll talk about paranormal in pop culture. But you can tell we have so much to talk about.
Oh my gosh, we're going to go on and on and on. It's going to be amazing.
Get ready for a wild ride.
Yeah. Shana, where can everybody find and follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Intuitive Shana.
And on Instagram at Derek Jameson is probably the best way to find me.
And I'm Alexander. You can follow me at Alexander is on air. And again, go to queerfromtheotherside.com. It has all of our social media anchors there. You can even you can join us on the message boards there. You can talk to each other. You can talk to us. And like I said, we're going to be doing fun little videos. And who knows where the show's going to take us.
It's probably going to take us to another planet.
Yeah. Oh, real fast. Do you have any homework to give our listeners for next time?
I do. Since we're all going to be kind of diving into the paranormal together, I think it's very important that we practice good spiritual hygiene. So I want you guys to make sure that you're keeping your house clean and protected. And an easy way to do that is, and it can be a little messy at first, but bear with me, you mix together sea salt, onion skin, and garlic skin, right? And if you want to, you can even mix in some eggshell. You grind all of that up and you sprinkle it all over the floors of your home, and you go ahead and then you'll sweep it all out because garlic and onions are actually very powerful for exorcisms. Salt, we know, is a witch's best friend, so you kind of combine all of that and eggshells, and it's going to lend to cleansing all of the negativity that's in the home, including unwanted spirits, while also layering in some protection for you.
Now, what if I wanted a spirit to come visit me, like such as one of my past loved ones? Is that going to prevent them from coming to say hi?
Not necessarily, because you just have to kind of like put that out there. I'm still letting, X, Y, and Z. I'm still welcoming you, and you have to just like set the space for that.
Okay.
Amazing. Well, I was going to make my homework about the pop culture segment of what we were doing. But what I will say, since we were talking about connecting with angels and interdimensional beings, I thought it would be a really cool way to set the intention that if people were interested in meeting gods or goddesses, angels, extraterrestrial guides and interdimensionals, any guides that are working with you at this particular point, you could go either into a meditation or right before bed, set the intention to connect with an angel or whatever you feel most comfortable with, an angel or a spirit guide that's working with you now, and then stay really open. It could come in a vision right before you fall asleep. It could be within your dreams. It could be just as a thought awareness, or it could be in a meditation. You start to get colors or light or feelings or sensations. So start to connect with your spirit guides and those beings that are working with you, because it helps make life a lot more loving and powerful. And you get to really work with the spirit friends that are working with you to manifest dreams and desires and all the beautiful things that we can have here on life.
Now, when you try to connect, do you like verbally say out loud, like,
yeah, I
come
mean,
to me, or is it like,
I do
do you
both.
mentally think?
I do telepath. So if a spirit does connect with me, I will telepathically communicate with it rather than use my words, because it pulls me out of it a little bit. So if I think and I communicate with it, it works more effectively. But if I'm here like this and I was doing this together, I would say, thank you, guardian angel, for stepping in and working with us, and please connect with me. I would verbalize it. Vibration goes out into the room and begins to paint the environment. So when you send vibration out with words of power, you're going to have cool experiences. So I would say do both.
All right. Well, that's all that. Special thank you to UBN Go Studios for hosting our podcast, and Club Paranormal. Join all the fun paranormal-wise. And we're your queer perspective. Until next time.
Bye.
That was another episode of Queer from the Other Side.
Please like, share, review, and subscribe.
Until next time, stay curious.